the Headwaters Resource Conservation and Development Council presents the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative. In partnership with the United States Department of Agriculture, Natural Resources Conservation Service, the United States Environmental Protection Agency, the Foundation for Pennsylvania Watersheds, the Pennsylvania Grazing Lands Coalition, Penn State College of Agricultural Sciences, Penn State Extension, the Potter County Conservation District, and by the Pennsylvania Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, Bureau of Forestry. Thank you for your support.
Hello, we're out here in the pasture, and this spot in the pasture is where there's been a lot of bales fed, a lot of cattle activity, and we have some compaction, and compaction issues is probably the main thing right here. It's a little wet, so we also get some pugging, and just wanted to have you look at what the landscape looks like here and the soil itself. Here we notice there's sparser vegetation here, and we even see some plants that indicate wetness. My name's Matt Havens. I'm a soil scientist with the USDA Natural Resources Conservation Service. My area covers southern New York and the northern part of Pennsylvania. And I want to talk to you today about grazing and soil health. Healthy pastures and healthy soils are interdependent. They depend on one another. A healthy pasture means you have healthy soil. Healthy soil means you have healthy pasture. And good management can really improve your pastures and your soil health. One of the best ways to evaluate your pasture soil health is to look along an established fence line. This area has not been subject to the same use and/or abuse as the rest of the pasture. So what we can do is dig a hole here. When we look at this soil, we can see it has great structure, great aggregates. It looks like maybe cottage cheese, or you could say breadcrumbs. We have nice biology here, good roots. We have an earthworm. Those are always all good signs in a healthy, well-managed pasture soil. When you think of soil, think of it as a living sponge, and this sponge has two parts. It has a solid part, and then it has all the holes or the pore spaces. Now, this comes from having good aggregates, microbes, all the small critters in the soil we can't see, bacteria, fungi, protozoa, nematodes. They work together with even plant roots, producing biologic glues that hold the soil together. Again, there's also fungal hyphae, which you can think of like spaghetti. That's rebar going through the soil and helping to hold it together. Now, in a healthy soil, about half of the volume is solid and half of the volume is spaces or pores. Healthy, diverse biology gives rise to healthy soils. When we have a diversity of plants above the soil, it equates to diversity of species below the soil. It's interesting that plants can leak out of their roots up to 1/3 of their carbohydrates as sugars that attract certain microbes in order to have those microbes release nutrients that the plant can take up. These aggregates are resistant to breakdown and can withstand water and rain, and we'll show you that in our video of aggregate stability. We're going to demonstrate the soil aggregate stability test. The sample on the right has a lot of biological activity, roots, good structure. It's come from a well-managed grazing system. The soil on the left is a soil that has low biologic activity, low roots, low organic matter. We're going to put these in the soil, in the water, and see what happens. The soil on the right, you'll see there's no sediment falling down. The soil on the left the water is cloudy because that soil is falling apart. It has low organic matter, low biological activity. The soil on the right is held together because of biologic glues produced by the microbes in the soil, plus the fungal hyphae strands that are like spaghetti holding it together. Think of like rebar in soil. That all works to hold the soil together, making stable aggregates. That's what we want in healthy soil. Healthy soil that has these stable aggregates can take in a rainfall and the aggregates don't break apart. These stable aggregates in combination with increased organic matter can make the soil act like a super sponge, soaking in rainfall and storing it for later. This can help us to eliminate the summer slump of forage growth and provide some drought resistance. Really, we don't have a runoff problem on most of our fields. We have an infiltration problem. Proper grazing management can actually improve soil health by improving both the biological and physical aspects of our soil. In a healthy soil and pasture system, production is increased, weeds are reduced, and the livestock are healthy as well. The benefits to the environment are obvious. Less runoff, less nutrient loss, less erosion. That equals cleaner streams. Benefits to the farmer are increased production, potentially longer grazing season, and lower inputs. This is a more sustainable system, resulting in happy livestock and happy farmer. Unhealthy soil grazing systems lack these benefits and can put stress on the soil, the plants, the livestock, and the farmer. Overgrazing can be a problem in poorly managed pastures. Overgrazing leads to less solar panels, meaning less leaves, which also means less root growth, which means we have decreased production. And plants like that cannot release as many carbohydrates to the microbes in order to feed those microbes and release plant nutrients. The result of this is that the whole system declines. Soil compaction is another problem that also goes hand in hand with grazing. When livestock graze too much or in wet conditions, they can compact the soil. This actually squeezes the air and reduces the pore space in the soil, which can lead to a decline in the system and low production. Let's contrast the two soils, the one that we dug out near the permanent fence line and then one from the compacted area. The one in the permanent fence line, we can see we have a lot of roots. We have very good soil structure. It almost looks like cottage cheese or breadcrumbs. It's very well aggregated. It's dark colored, down probably to about 8 inches. If we look at the compacted soil, we'll see that we have much less rooting. And even the roots that we do have, there are some that are actually going laterally because they cannot move downward due to the soil being so compacted. We have less organic matter here than we have here. We can notice the blocky structure. So this example near the fence row is showing us that we have potential in this pasture to have a healthy soil if we can do proper management to reduce this compaction. Let's look at a rainfall simulator of a healthy, well-managed pasture soil versus a compacted pasture soil. This is our rainfall simulator. We're going to have two different soil conditions and we're going to simulate a rainfall and see what happens. The soil on the right is from a well-managed grazing system with good structure, good biological activity. The soil on the left is from an overgrazed and compacted pasture. We're going to simulate rainfall now, the same amount of rain or water on each sample, and let's see what happens. As you'll notice, the soil from the compacted overgrazed pasture has much more runoff than the soil from the well-managed pasture. This is because with compaction, the water can't move down through the soil, it just moves across, and also taking with it some sediment. That's why the water from the compacted overgrazed pasture is slightly darker than the water from the well-managed pasture. If we look and could see underneath, we would see that there's less water that's moved through the soil in the compacted pasture, which makes sense because it's compacted, most of it runs off. In the soil from the well-managed pasture, more of that moves through the soil. It's acting as a sponge, holding that water for later on when it's needed by the plants. This has implications in nutrients that are lost from the field, sediment in our streams, and such. So healthy soils and healthy pastures are important. In summary, you can check the soil health of your pasture yourself using a shovel, going along a fence line, and comparing that to what you have in the middle of your pasture. That will give you an idea of the potential you can gain by proper grazing management.